But when we set up social media strategies with content in mind, it gets very hard to prove return on investment. And that's what our C-suite wants to see, right? If we're in charge of
Sure.
social or if we're the marketers, our C-suites are telling us, what's the value of social media? Why am I putting budget towards this if I don't see a return on investment? So what I am trying to gently and sometimes not so gently convince people of is that social media, if you want to build for ROI, is based in conversations. It's based in the customer experience that's happening every day, all day on social media. And so we need to move from content. I'm not saying you have to have content to post on social media. I'm not saying
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
But we need to move into creating conversational social media content and then looking at those conversations with a CX or a customer experience lens to get to pipeline or business outcomes.
Let's go.
Welcome to The Move In, a senior living marketing podcast from Unlock Health, a full-service marketing partner for the aging services industry. Join us for candid conversations exploring the latest marketing strategies with the senior living community leaders and innovative solution partners who are moving our industry forward. Together, we'll build a community to build better communities. Which social media post sparked the most engagement, and what did you do with that momentum? Hello, I'm Larry Williams, and welcome to the Move In Senior Living Marketing, powered by Unlock Health. In today's conversation, I'm joined by Brooke Sellas, founder and CEO of B Squared Media. Brooke reminds us that the posts driving the most engagement aren't always the flashiest, they're the ones that spark genuine conversation. She shares how brands that lean into those moments, asking thoughtful questions and engaging with intent, can transform simple comments into meaningful business outcomes. As Brooke puts it, content is the vehicle, but emotion is the destination. That's exactly where we're headed today, moving beyond content and into connection, turning social media into clients. Here are 3 things we discussed in this episode. First, conversations drive ROI, not just more posts. And vulnerability builds connection, and connection creates clients. And finally, social is your 24/7 focus group. Listen, engage, and act. All right, let's jump into it. We are on the Move In Senior Living Marketing. I have a new friend with me, Brooke Sellas. Brooke, thank you for joining the podcast. I met Brooke today. Now, Brooke is going to be presenting at the Smash Conference in, I guess, a month away. So you're one of the keynotes, and Unlock Health is fortunate to be the sponsor of your keynote. And your session is one that I had circled on the agenda. And when we had the opportunity to sponsor it, I was, yes, 100%. So thank you for joining us on the podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me, Larry. I can already tell we're going to be great friends, and now I can't wait to meet you IRL.
We get to meet in person, so this is going to be awesome. I'm guessing, is this your? Have you attended any other conferences in the senior living space?
I attended Smash not last year, the year before, maybe.
Yeah.
So not 2024, but 2023, I think.
Awesome.
Yes. So I've been acclimated with your audience, and man, what a great conference. Like, everyone was so kind. Like, I
So
can't
kind.
even say, like, I didn't meet one not nice person, and that's saying a lot for a conference.
It really, I mean, it's weirdly kind. And I tell everybody connects, even those who are competitors. You just get together, share information, insights.
Yeah, I didn't
Yeah.
see any of that competition. If there was, it was lost on me, but like maybe friendly. But everybody was so kind. So I love that I got invited back by Bailey, because who doesn't want to hang out with a bunch of nice people?
I mean, I think we need more of that in this world, right? We just get
Yes, we
together with
do.
nice people and for better way ideas, and just really, I think we need more cheerleaders in this life, and Smash is the place to do, to get that. So I'm
Yes.
glad you're going to be a part of the conference this year. Again, your session is going to be incredible. I'm
Thank you.
so excited, and as we spoke about before we jumped into the actually recording, we're talking about how marketing is always evolving and it's always changing, and far too often we go back to insights and strategies that worked in the past, Well, because it's evolving, that doesn't mean it's going to work in the future. And I love how you're pulling together the social media element in this because I reflect on how I purchase and what I look at when in my free time. It's social media. And it's
Mhm.
Instagram, it's LinkedIn, it's those platforms. And how are we connecting on that level? So if you can, well, I tell you what, let me tell the session name:
Sure.
Beyond Content, Winning Customers Through Conversation. And what a great title for this session. Can you give us a little sneak peek into what you're going to be speaking about?
Yes. This is going to either resonate with you like 1,000,000%, or you're going to be like, what? And if you're like, what? I hope you come to the session, the closing keynote session at Smash, and hear me out. But I'll try to go through it a little bit here today without going overboard. But if you think about social media, I've been in social media for a very long time. I am a dinosaur in the social media world, and it's changed. You know why it's changed? Because social media was really shaped and molded by the consumers, by us as consumers. We're all consumers, right? So put your consumer hat on as you're listening to this. Um, but it's really changed in the way that we use it and the way we consumers use it. But when you look at how brands are using social media or companies are using social media, they're still using it the same way they did when social media first existed. And that is feeding the content beast. It's all about content. Well, we've got to check the content box. We've got to put this many posts out. Oh, I got to start doing videos because I know videos are all the new craze, right? But when we set up social media strategies with content in mind, it gets very hard to prove return on investment. And that's what our C suite wants to see, right? If we're in charge of
Sure.
social or if we're the marketers, our C suites are telling us, what's the value of social media? Why am I putting budget towards this if I don't see a return on investment? So, what I am trying to gently and sometimes not so gently convince people of is that social media, if you want to build for ROI, is based in conversations. It's based in the customer experience that's happening every day, all day on social media. And so we need to move from content. I'm not saying you have to have content to post on social media. I'm not saying
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
But we need to move into creating conversational social media content and then looking at those conversations with a CX or a customer experience lens to get to pipeline or business outcomes.
That's great. I appreciate that because, like you said, far too often we're trying to align data, some metrics with social media. It's really hard to do, and
Yeah.
there's other. One thing I think about is there's other marketing strategies that we like that's really capturing that passive audience,
Mm-hmm.
and we don't ask the same thing of those, whether it's advertisements, whether it's radio, television, but for some reason on social media, it's like give me the data behind it. How is this helping us really increase our like our opportunities list and really generate more leads? And I've never understood that why social media has a different magnifying glass on it.
Yeah, I think it's just that there is like social media is the place where it's all happening. You know, in my opinion, and what we've seen with some of our clients is when they treat social media as the playground, the place where they're really trying to listen to their customers and their would-be customers, and they're testing and trying things with the help of the customers, collaborating with customers, they tend to be outliers. They tend to see wildly big successes in using social media, but I think it's because they've kind of flipped it around, right? They've said, this is basically the world's largest free, I'm putting that in quotations because it takes
Sure.
time and effort, right? But free focus group. I actually used to do focus groups earlier in my marketing career. And do you want to know what kind of money got dropped on focus
Oh
groups
yeah.
and time? And now you literally have that in front of you on social every single day, 24/7. And a lot of people will say, well, Brooke, people aren't talking about my brand, so I don't really have that. Well, that's problem number one. You've got to get people talking about your brand, and
Yeah.
that's probably because you're not setting up your content to be conversational. It's still rooted in conversation, even when we're talking about content.
Yeah, for sure. That being said, I think about something that Gary Vaynerchuk said, which I was listening to one of his podcasts, and this really hit me. Which is, we talked about how social media can impact our society, and ultimately we're scared of it, and we have this reverence for it, but businesses don't want to invest in it,
Mm-hmm.
and like you said, it quickly becomes checking the box
Mm-hmm.
instead of something that we engage with. And one thing I do appreciate with social media is as you're engaging with an audience, if it's not good content, it kind of falls off, and you can kind of go to the next thing and keep, find out, okay, this was engaging, this is the right time, this is the right content, lean into this. And so, yeah, I appreciate everything that you're saying. And I'm curious on this side. We talked about the old school social media of just pushing content. How is this evolving? How can we, without giving too much away from your
Mm-hmm.
presentation in a month, how, what is that conversational element? Is it being overly responsive? Is it just kind
Yeah.
of watching what's working, what's not? Do you have any tidbits that you can throw at
Yeah.
us?
This is, I don't think, going to ruin anything because it's out there all over my blog and in other podcasts and all kinds of places. But the way we set this up to look for ROI through social media by looking at conversations, right? The CX lens, the customer experience lens, is a framework we called CARE, CARE. And that stands for conversations, acquisition, retention, and engagement. So, really quickly, the rundown is conversations. You have to be sparking conversations with your content. So we call it conversational content. I have a free course, by the way, for, talk worthy content. And it's literally how to create this type of content. But that's the number one thing. You've got to get people talking about your brand, because once these conversations are happening around your brand, which by the way, they might be, right? Because people aren't always tagging you when they're mentioning you, right? So there could be dark mentionings happen. Let's just pretend though there's no conversation happening, because you got to start with C, which is conversational content. Once you're having these conversations, or if you're a big enough brand where these conversations are already happening around your brand, your products, your services, your stakeholders, whatever it may be, you can quickly audit all of your social media channels to see what's the intent of these conversations. And we really put it into two big buckets. That's where the A and the R come in: acquisition and retention. Is this a sales support conversation? Is somebody saying, do you have this in my size? Do you ship to Canada? Do you have dementia care, right, in the senior care living, right? Do you also
Sure.
include dementia care or things like that kind of care within your facilities, right? They're asking that buying question. That's an acquisition signal. Or, as most of us know so well on social media, it's a retention conversation. I'm very mad about XYZ, right? You shipped this shirt and it was
Yeah.
missing a button, or my plane didn't take off on time, or whatever it may be. That is a place where obviously we need to try to save that customer.
Hmm.
Now that we're looking at it in the conversational lens, let me stop here, Larry, and tell you, if we're looking at acquisition and retention, we're automatically looking at ROI, aren't we?
Yeah.
Because if we're able to acquire that customer, if we're able to close that customer, that's direct ROI tied to social media. If we're able to save that customer, to stop that churn from happening, we're able to keep that money in the company. And obviously, the longer people remain loyal to our brand, the more money they spend, right? Their customer lifetime value increases. So already we've gotten to ROI, and we haven't even gotten to E, which is engagement, which just means once these things are happening, once you've audited, once you're auditing on a regular basis and tagging and looking for these intent signals, you've got to keep the engagement going. How can we go deeper with these conversations to get to bigger engagements, to lead towards pipeline? Not every conversation is going to be acquisition or retention, but when someone takes the time to pause in their busy day. We were just talking about kids and
Yeah.
the things we have and the
All the
travel,
stuff.
all the things. If someone takes, I don't care if it took them 2 seconds, the fact that they stopped scrolling and took the 2 seconds to respond to your social media content, you better get to them as quickly as possible and add value in your response. So I'm not just talking about engagement like, thanks for commenting, Larry, right? No, that's checking the content box,
Sure.
right? Or maybe we can say it's checking the engagement box. What I mean is, thanks so much for that insightful content, Larry. Tell me more. Or what made you think that? Or what tools did you use? Or what did you want to see in color options, right? If it's a
Yeah.
sales intent conversation. Add value, engage with intent. And the intent is, I can't tell you what your intent is. I'm assuming though, in some way it's pipeline. It's getting people down the funnel, and
Yeah.
you have to connect with people before you can sell them. So please don't just, say, "Hey Larry, thanks so much for that comment. Let me show you how you can buy my
Yeah.
things." Right?
Let's go into that cell.
Not that, but slowly moving Larry from a point of connection and actually looking at that customer experience towards pipeline.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes complete sense. And I think about it as really, like you said, get away from checking the box and go like just connect, engagement. And I wrote down connection over content, which is you just really want to have that personal touch to it. And
Yes.
it's almost in a certain way like reputation management, which is if
Yes.
others see that the brand is reaching out, engaging, you're more likely to say that's an organization that cares.
McKinsey did research on this,
Hmm.
and it might have come from Bain, but McKinsey reported on it more recently. But what they were able to show was the brands that engage with their customers through social media typically see a 20 to 40% lift in revenue,
Hmm.
because that is what customers expect, right? Social media, it's right there in the title. It was always meant to be a social platform. Brands were never actually meant to be a part of it, right? But of course, we're capitalists and this is what we do, and we figure out ways to make money. And so that is how these platforms have evolved, thanks to the platforms that own them. But also, it does feed consumerism, and consumers are happy to be sold to when there is this point of, engagement, connection, alignment, all of those things.
Think about this. I think it was Zig Ziglar that said that people hate to be sold to, but they love to buy, and it's very true.
Yes.
Which is, we don't want someone just peppering us with this just sales questions,
Cold
but we like
sales.
doing the
Yeah.
research ourselves, and we like knowing that. I think okay, we have our consumer hat on,
Yes.
and there are so many groups out there that look the part, but you don't know if they are the part, and so to have an organization actually engage with its audience and learn from that audience, I really, really appreciate that. And I want to be, aware of time, and I want to make sure I include this. Something that stands out to me more so than ever is not just having content, but just the right content, so that creates that engagement, that tells that story. And I think about
Hmm.
really in senior living, we're evolving a narrative, of what senior living is. It's not what you think of, what it was back, back in the
The
day.
home. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And think about like what most people think of, but it's really a place of connection where people come together. And I think about how valuable social media specifically can be in evolving that narrative and engaging with, adult children decision makers. I see my wife's grandmother; she's on Instagram quite a bit, or Facebook. It has such a different, I say, strength now. That being
Yes.
said, I feel like short form video is winning the day more than ever.
Hmm.
I know we don't want to just pepper with content, but should we be when it comes to the content leaning more into short form video, just quick hits? What do you see that works and creates that engagement level?
Yeah, well, it doesn't the content itself doesn't matter. Now hear
Okay.
me out. Let me tell you the next step. And that's because the content's job is to create that emotional connection. And you just pointed it out. In your industry specifically, that emotional connection is really what gets you that sale, right? It gets you the deal at the end of the
Yeah.
day. And that is exactly what social media is primed for, is emotional connection. So I want you to think about it this way. Content is the vehicle. Emotion is the destination.
Love that.
So if you are going to create a video because video's great, great, fine, wonderful, grand. But how is that video getting to the destination, which is emotion? How are you making people feel something? How are you making people want to share their feelings or their opinions with you that are obviously adjacent to what you do? So if we're talking to a senior care facility, that would be one. But no matter what you do, You want it to be adjacent to obviously what you're selling and what
Sure.
you're doing, but it needs to be emotional. And I think that was the rub that you mentioned earlier, Larry, is like brands don't want to invest. I think brands are even willing to invest. They don't want to be vulnerable.
Hmm.
And we can't get to emotion without vulnerability.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest hurdle that brands are facing this year and beyond, is that to truly get to that emotional place, you have to be willing to be vulnerable with your content. And plenty of brands are just not willing to do that. And that's their choice. But I know from working with our clients, the brands who can get past that and say, we're going to use this as a channel, the playground, to really talk to our customers, to be vulnerable with them, to let them be vulnerable with us, and to create that sense of belonging and trust and inclusion, they do quite well
Yeah.
with social media where everybody else is struggling.
If they can be as authentic as possible. Now, like you said, you take a risk in that. And I feel like a lot of brands are worried about misstepping because
They're
that
risk
is
averse. Yeah.
exactly. And so they
Yeah.
don't want to misstep and there's that unintended consequence. And
Yeah.
I understand that, but man, what an opportunity we have in front of us.
Yeah.
Now, one thing I'm looking forward to, I won't ask you in this conversation, but because I want to make sure we're saving some for this your presentation at Smash on Tuesday. I think it's around 3:30. So
Mm-hmm.
looking forward to that. The BIC framework, where you're speaking about brand, industry, and
Yes.
competition. Again, these are things I really, really look forward to hearing you really unpack more. So,
Yeah.
Brooke, this has been great. Thank you so much for taking the time. You've opened my eyes. I love the content is the vehicle, and emotion is the destination. That's great stuff. You need to put that on a t-shirt. So, hey,
maybe I should. That's a good idea.
you should. I love it. That's great. That's great stuff.
Oh
Hey,
my
where
gosh,
can
what if I wore that t-shirt and you wore that t-shirt at the closing keynote?
I would proudly wear that t-shirt.
Okay,
For
we're
sure.
making it. We're
Yes.
making it happen, Larry. We're making it happen.
100%. This is good stuff. Hey, where can people find you to learn more until they get to see you at Smash?
Yeah, so I'm on LinkedIn. That's where I love to hang out. So if you want to talk to me directly, find me on LinkedIn. It's just look for Brooke Sellas. I think I'm the only Brooke Sellas on the planet at this point in time. I haven't found any others.
On the planet. That's
On the
that's
planet,
impressive.
I'm pretty sure. So that should be easy enough to find me there. But you can also find my company and the work that we do there with our clients at b2.media. So it's a .com. So it's just b2.media.
Awesome. And you host a podcast about social media, correct?
do.
You gotta tell everybody about that.
I host a podcast called the Social Media CX Podcast, CX being for customer experience. So social media customer experience. And this is exactly what I talk about, right? Like, how do we start using social media to get to pipeline? Well, we have to start with customer experience.
This is great stuff. Thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you in October.
Thank you, Larry. Bye, y'all. See you soon.
That's a wrap on today's conversation with Brooke Sellas, and I appreciate how she reminded us that the power of social media isn't in how much we post, but in how deeply we connect. Before we go, here are 3 actionable takeaways that I made notes of during this conversation. First, shift from posting to conversing. Focus on sparking real dialogue and lean into those interactions with thoughtful follow-ups. And second, use the CARE framework. Conversations, acquisition, retention, and engagement to measure what matters and tie social directly to ROI. And third, treat social as a focus group. Listen actively, test ideas, and respond quickly to build trust and connection. Thank you to Brooke for joining us and bringing the energy and insight. And until next time, let's go create some meaningful connections.